exactly 3 weeks today since tragedy struck off Bournemouth beach, and it ended up ending the lives of 2 children. 12-year-old Sunnah Khan was enjoying a half-term trip to the seaside with her family when she drowned, along with 17-year-old Joe Abbas.
While police continue to investigate the exact circumstances, Sunnah's mum, Stephanie, is raising awareness on staying safe in the water. She says if she can stop just one person from going through the pain that her family is suffering, then those efforts will be well worth it. And
Stephanie is here this morning in the studio. And Lee Hurd is also here from the Royal Life-Saving Society. Stephanie, I can't imagine how much strength it's taking you to be here, but I know that focusing your efforts on just making sure that other children don't get into the same difficulty as Sunnah got into, that's a distraction for you, isn't it? And sort of a purpose, it's a way to keep your mind occupied, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it's given me something else to focus on, something positive. Yeah. And if something positive comes out of what's happened to my family, then there'll be, you know, a reason. There's got to be.
You can make a kind of sense of it.
Yeah.
Well, Susanna said it was 3 weeks ago today. How did you hear?
So her dad called me when I was just getting ready to leave work, and he told me what happened, and then I went to Bournemouth, or it's Poole Hospital, which is about 2.5 hours away from where I live.
To see her?
Yeah.
So you had a 2.5-hour drive knowing what has happened?
Yeah.
I can hardly imagine what that must have been like for you.
Are you clear about what happened to Sunnah in the water?
Yeah, so the police did, obviously her dad told me, but the police did then put together a timeline of what happened. And obviously we have the cause of death, which was drowning.
Yeah. But she was in... Firstly, we know she could swim. Secondly, she was with her older brother, he's a year older, and he can swim as well. And this was a safe part of the beach?
Yeah, so they were in between the flags, on the beach.
And initially, they thought that the water was... They could touch the sand, and thought that they were in water which they could swim in.
Yeah.
But after... Did she then get out of her depth?
Yeah, so they then ended up where they couldn't touch the bottom.
This is your son telling you this?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
And then they said that a wave came over, and they started to shout for help. A lifeguard pulled my son from the water, but they were unable to locate Sunnah.
She disappeared.
Yeah.
And then she was... Obviously, she came out of the water.
And she washed out of the...
And you said that your elder son, the 13-year-old, before the wave broke, he was finding it impossible to swim back to shore. He was being pulled out.
Yeah, so they started to try to make their way back, but they couldn't.
Stephanie, I know the whole purpose of you being here this morning is not to, you know, go over these details simply to tell the story, but to go over them so that other parents know what happened and can take steps to protect their children. Because, as you said at the beginning of the interview, if you can stop one other child going through this, one other family going through this, then you'll find some meaning in it. In your view, what should parents know to tell their children about how they can protect themselves?
I think it's really important for people to know the dangers of what can happen in the sea, even in chest-height, shallow water. It's important to know what to do should you find yourself in trouble in the water. And I think that having some information that's viewable when you're on the beach.
That's interesting. OK, so you mean signs saying, if this happens to you, this is what you do?
Yeah. I think, like, you know, when you get on an aeroplane, you have the safety information in front of you on the headrest.
Very good analogy, yeah.
Why can the same not apply to an area where there is danger of death or serious injury.
Well, let's turn to Lee on that point then. I have to say, if I was a parent with young children, we were going to a British beach, or any beach, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want them going in the water. And that may seem an overprotective reaction, but hearing this story, you've got two good swimmers. They're not little, they're 12 and 13. They're paddling, basically, because their feet can touch the bottom, and with no warning, they're sucked out, and a wave breaks over one of them, and she's drowned. And yet this was Bournemouth Beach, and between the safety flags. It seems that the risk, however safe we think it is always there.
Yeah, I think it is a sober reminder. I mean, we live on an island nation. We're surrounded by water, both inland and coastal, and we do have a culture to be in and around the water. It's part of our everyday life, and I don't think any of us want those bodies of water to be fenced off and that not happen. But it is a reminder that water can be dangerous, and, you know, we're certainly in support of Stephanie and just welcome her strength to come and talk about this, just so we can provide families and children with as much education as possible to know those.
So, if her suggestion to have these boards with warning information were to be followed up, what kind of information would they be giving anybody, never mind just children, but anybody going into the water? What would they say?
I think highlighting the risk is important, but I think what we would always say is actually by teaching children and everyone actually the skills to be able to react in those situations.
Which is what? What do you do?
But I know you've been covering this morning some information such as floating is really, really important. There's an inherent physiological response that when we get into trouble in the water, we panic. And actually what we're trying to teach children is actually to float on your back, keep your head above the water, put your ears in the water. And normally that gives you a few seconds just to be able to think about your next move and what you can do.
And what is your next move? Because if you can't swim back to shore because you're being pulled out by a riptide, which is what this sounds this was, I hear you swim parallel to the beach.
Yeah, so rip currents, again, it's one of the knowledge we try and get across to children in schools, and we're doing it this week during our campaign. It's about trying to get them to understand that actually trying to fight against the current is really challenging. Lying on your back, floating, understanding where you are, and then swimming parallel to the beach.
Why parallel to the beach?
Well, rip currents are fundamentally the water's way of getting back out to the ocean. So the water comes onto the shore. They need to then find a channel to get back out.
I see.
So they're normally quite thin channels of water, but they can go out quite fast.
So by swimming parallel, you are swimming out of the riptide and into calmer waters, and then you can turn into the beach.
Correct, spot on.
I see, and that's the information you'd have on these boards.
Yes, yeah. So floating to live, understanding how to get out of rip currents is really crucial information that actually at the point of entry to the water could really help someone understand what they need to do.
So this be taught in schools?
So we've been lobbying the government, and we're going to Westminster tonight with the report that you're covering to get class-based education onto the curriculum. And the reason for that is we're very fortunate in England, swimming is on the PE curriculum, but we know that actually if you're from a high-income family, you're 50% more likely to be able to swim and meet those outcomes and your rescue standards as a child from a low-income family. So there are inherent gaps in that knowledge and children getting that. So we've been lobbying the government to put this on the class-based education on the curriculum throughout a child's journey through school, so that they've got this basic theoretical level of understanding of the water and how to react should it get into trouble.
We have the video that you've produced. I wonder if you could just talk us through what to do in these situations.
Yes, so this is a video produced by the RNLI. They've done some research at Portsmouth University about some basic techniques. A lot of this is about responding in cold water because we're not used to doing that. Simply, you know, when you do feel panicked or overwhelmed, just lying on your back, keeping your airway clear, calling for help, raising your arm, understanding what to do next, either to swim out of a rip current or just to swim to the side or ask someone to help you, is vital minutes and seconds to get that help that you need to try and get out of the water.
Well, it is, as it says in the video, it's like fighting an instinct, isn't it? We think that we can rely on our survival instincts, and actually they may not be telling us the right thing. So it's such important information, Stephanie, that you're highlighting here. That not to, I mean, it sounds so obvious, doesn't it? And, you know, not to panic, lie on your back, to float. These aren't things that you would naturally think of. And I know, Stephanie, you would say to parents, wouldn't you, take notice of this information?
Yeah, I think just doing the research, because, I mean, I'm 32, I didn't know that, I've never heard of Drowning Prevention Week. I don't know why. Why do we not know that there is a Drowning Prevention Week and that this happens so often? Yeah. I don't, you know, I feel like people need to be aware of, or just have a general awareness of.
You're here being incredibly strong. How are your other children? How are they managing?
They're doing okay.
They're what, they're 13?
13, 9 and 5.
9 and 5, go on.
We're all just trying to support them and, you know, in any way we can. The school have been very supportive of them. And
are they back at school?
Yeah, they're back at school. Okay. And, yeah, we're all just trying to be there for them. And obviously we've never experienced anything like this before, so we're all learning, you know, how we can support each other.
Stephanie, we really appreciate you coming in, and I know that the information that you're helping Lee share is so important. I mean, literally would be life-saving, wouldn't it, for other families? And I know that that's the purpose you want to find.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
indeed. Just to summarise it again, if you find yourself being pulled out, don't panic, float, and when you're ready, swim parallel. That'll get you out of the rip, and then you can get back to the beach.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Lee, thank you very much. Stephanie, we send you all our love, honestly, to you and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.